Yeah, yo, sometimes you gotta go to war for what you believe in. Sometimes you gotta go to war for what it is that you want, what you see that's right. I'm about to go to war, but lyrically. War cry, baby. Yeah. Hey yo, war cries echoes in the background. That's the sound of soldiers getting ripped up and tore down. Lyrically dismantle metaphors and manhandle. Marauder with another episode of Impose My Will podcast. I am your host, Ramone. With me today, I got my brother, Anthony. I got my brother, Joe. Anthony, what's happening? How you feeling, bro?
Good evening, fellas. Blessed to be here.
Yes,
ready to get into a lot of boxing topics. Hope everybody having a good weekends, and a lot of boxing news to go through.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Joe.
Man, I am good. A little hot. Too hot up here for this past week, but we living over here, man. We good, bro.
Yeah. Dope, man. I'm happy y'all doing well. Everybody, welcome back to the podcast. Appreciate your support. Appreciate just the views, the clicks. Thank you very much for tuning in. Please follow us on our social media, Instagram, Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter. Impose My Will podcast. Please like, subscribe, or dislike, whatever you prefer is fine with us. Welcome to the show. Listen, fellas, it's been a minute since we've been on. Little bit of hiatuses. You know how life is. You know, sometimes we're able to get together frequent, sometimes we're not. Holidays, birthdays, all types of stuff comes up. But, you know, we make it a point to jump back on and reconvene and get back into our boxing business. So let's jump right in, man. The last major thing that happened in boxing that all of us watched, the whole world essentially watched, is the Gervonta Tank Davis versus Frank Martin card, right? So first and foremost, I want to thank Amazon Prime for making those fights go essentially back to back to back. I felt like the event ended at a decent time. I didn't feel like I was about to fall asleep in the middle of the event, because most times I'm in and out. I'm dozing, you know what I'm saying? I'm dozing, especially as we getting closer to the main event. I'll be fighting, you know what I'm saying, to stay up. So I'm very happy at how they're running the fights, the pay-per-view fights on the platform there. But let's get right into it, man. There was a bunch of fights, but in particular, let's talk about the co-mains. And the first one was being David Benavidez versus Alexander Vosdyk. I hope I pronounced that correctly. I'm probably going to pronounce a few names incorrect this episode, but forgive me. Interesting fight, fellas. Let's go ahead and break it down. Anthony AT, man, I want to get your breakdown, man.
That fight actually was very interesting. I was very intrigued to see how Benavidez would carry up to 175 and see how his body would feel, how his punch would carry, and everything like that against a strong, durable fighter like Alexander. And what I took from that fight, he moved up, he held his weight, and you could see his punch is not as strong against bigger fighters, natural 175 pounders. Now, I know he's a big guy and he burns weight down to 168. I guess he makes it comfortably, but in some ways, he's kind of a weight bully. So he's bigger than a lot of dudes at 168. So when he got to 175, I wanted to see how his powers would translate. And while he was active and hands still look good, speed combinations, a lot of the punches landed clean. They didn't have that major effect on him. There's clean scoring shots, but it wasn't to the point where the opponent wasn't in there still. The opponent still kept coming forward. So that shocked me right there. I was like, that's interesting. So with that, of course, he won clean, everything like that. You could say he won almost every round, but towards the end, you could see with that extra weight and his work rate, he started wearing down towards the end. And then my man probably got a few rounds potentially. So where everybody had expectations for him to go up there and stop him impressively, he didn't do that. So, and then after that, you could kind of hear him already angry, like, hey, I'm going to go back to 168. I'm a, I'm gonna activate my mandatory. Like, no, you weren't talking about that before. You was like, I want to fight the winner of B-ball and better be. Now, sometimes you pump his brakes, so that's interesting, and I was very intrigued by that.
No doubt. Joe, how about you, brother?
Yeah, I have to agree with AT on that one. Great fight. It was honestly, it turned out a lot better than what I expected because I ain't gonna lie, I was kind of expecting that, but like AT was saying, Benavidez is a weight bully, and he couldn't do that in this fight. But the one thing that I did like to see about him is like he kind of adjusted when he realized like, I the size of this dude, he can eat my punches or whatever. Which we've seen a lot of great for back and forth, and he even took a couple of good shots, which impressed me too because he could actually eat a punch,
Right.
and he caught a couple in that fight. But great fight. It showed his durability. I definitely think he's going to 100% look back to the, saying 168 pocket for a bit, but I think he will once he knows that, hey, I'm gonna come back up and try to fight some more of these guys up here. I think he's going to adjust for that because, yeah, it's going to be tough if he do, try to stay with the 175 slide there. But good fight, man. Yeah. I definitely love to see who he's going to fight next. And I wonder what is going through Canelo's head now, too, watching that fight. Because I think that might give Canelo a little bit of more confidence and taking him up.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see.
I agree with both of y'all, man. I think both of y'all made valid points. It was interesting seeing them both in the ring and kind of sizing them. Alexander was slightly bigger than him, which is never the case when we see when we see him. Give me 1 second.
He must be having some connection issues.
So we got a fallout. Probably.
Yeah, he'll get it right back. Now I will say I wanted to add too that I did think Benavidez, he's showing better upper body movement too. I was kind of impressed with that.
Yeah.
He's moving his head a little more than he did before. You can see him kind of popping and weaving. So that I was kind of impressed with that. But then again, like I said, the punch resistance, it seemed like those 175s can take it better. And he had to be real mindful.
100%.
And then he was older too, so I was really surprised he didn't get him out of there. And that dude was like 37. You couldn't get him out of there, so that was very
but he was in pretty good shape though. I have to give it to him. Like for him,
he wasn't in that good of a
shape
when he fought Better Be. He wasn't in that good of a shape. He looked down.
Nah.
Sorry, fellas, I had a little technical difficulty. I apologize about that. But yeah, just piggybacking off of both what y'all said, man. It was first and foremost, David he looked great for the most part. He looked great, man. His shot placement was there. He hit dude with tons of flush, big shots. His movement was great. He also played to the crowd. The crowd love when he throw them 10-punch combinations, and it's just exciting. It's just exciting to watch. But it was also interesting that really none of it actually hurt Alexander at all for the most part. You know what I'm saying? Alexander took pretty much every shot, and David hit him with some big body shots. I was saying that as the fight was going, I was saying that he's gonna basically work the body. It's a bigger target. It's a bigger guy. The body is there to be hit, and he was tapping that body, but he ate them joints. He was eating them joints left and right. It really didn't make a move much at all, which AT you bring up, about his power not really translating to that weight division. Man, I'm somebody who, if I would have put money on that, as far as like a little bet with somebody thinking that he would have had dropped this dude or got him out of it, I would have lost my money because I was thinking that the more weight, he would have a little bit more power. It's less of a weight cut, but we got to understand a lot of the guys that he fought at his previous weight class is just straight up smaller than him. Just straight up shorter, straight up, not as big, and he weight bullying like crazy. Not saying that doesn't take away from his actual talent, but the weight makes a difference, right?
It's true.
Even if you the same weight, but you 3-4 inches taller than me, and your reach is that much longer than mine's, is going to make a difference, right? So it's interesting that this fight kind of went the distance. Nobody thought it was going to go the distance, but it did. Still a good fight. He started to get winded though towards the end of the fight, which was very interesting.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because he hitting this dude with everything he got, and he not going nowhere. And you know what I'm saying? And he's getting winded. So if he's gonna fight at that weight class, definitely I would say he's definitely got to work on more of the strength and conditioning aspect. I'm not sure if he has a strength and conditioning coach, but if not, get one. You know what I'm saying? Because one, you got to have your wind up because these guys they just can take a harder punch for one, and it's going to take a lot out of you. So you got to have your wind up, and two, you got to hit harder. You have to hit harder. If he's looking to fight somebody more of an elite guy at that weight class, is what he did was great, but let's keep it real. And I'm gonna be honest, and I'm gonna say this because I'm one of those guys where I'm saying I've always said I think Benavidez can crack the Canelo code. After that fight, I'm not sure if Canelo's power is just kind of through the roof, and if he land flush on Benavidez, man, it's gonna be bad. It's gonna be bad. So starting to kind of rethink my feeling, my thoughts as far as that matchup a little bit, and if it ever gets announced or start bubbling again, we could definitely discuss it more. But I think we saw some things with David Benavidez this time around that was really interesting. It was not just pushing forward, beating up a guy all night and eventually dropping him. That's not what happened. So looking forward to both of these brothers. Alexander's 37 years old too, man. I mean, he's considered damn near old man in boxing. You know what I'm saying? So even to your point, AT, like even with that age, he wasn't able to hurt him at all. So that says a lot. He kept the door open for his previous weight class, especially with the B-Vol better be winner mandatory of whoever wins that fight. That's probably a big money fight too. I'm keeping that door open too. I'm David. You know what I'm saying? I'm going down there. I'm gonna be the bigger dude, get the bigger bag. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? So yeah, man. So that's all I got for that one, man. Any other points you guys want to make for that particular fight?
Yeah, I think like you said with the Canelo really thing, I do. We were talking about it. I always felt Canelo will beat him, even though Canelo is not at what he once was. But I would like to say, if I'm Canelo, I'm definitely looking at that like, Canelo got an iron chin, so that stuff. We don't know truly what Benavidez' chin is, as he really got hit by somebody who can crack.
Yo, quick side point. I know you said that, and we all say this. We've all said that, Canelo was not, what he was. But is Canelo having something like a second wind? You guys would say like this later half of his career, like are we seeing a semi or slightly better Canelo these last couple of fights than his last previous fights? Because I feel like one of the things that he kind of that was lacking was the conditioning, right? He would tire out. Even in the B-Vol fight, he would play on the ropes, you know what I'm saying, catch his breath or whatever case may be. But you fast forward to Charlo, you fast forward to his last fight, the one he just had against Jaime Munguia. The conditioning seemed to be on point. It seems like they took, extra time to really make sure that his conditioning is where it needs to be. And it's crazy because now it's like with his great conditioning, he's having more fun out there. He hit me, he had telling dudes to hit him, and it's just crazy. So are we kind of seeing like, I don't want to say a second coming because nobody can beat Father Time, right? But at the same time, are we seeing like him have kind of like a second wind in his career? What's your thoughts on that?
I want to hear what AT got to say on this one. He got to smile like.
I mean, when we talk about second win, are we talking about clenbuterol or ostarine?
Oh my God, Jesus Christ!
What energy? I mean, or the gas station, the Ryan House joints,
Oh man,
the
we
Lamar
talking about
Odom joints from the gas
the
station.
Mexican meat, man. Talk about the Mexican
Yeah,
meat.
so if you eat them tacos, I mean, because my man be standing up in the corner, and you know them clenbuterol levels. Now you can have it in your system a little bit.
Oh
So
man, hilarious,
I
hilarious.
mean, I'm just
That's
curious.
funny
I'm
as
not
hell.
sure. It
Yeah, yeah.
might them blue diamonds or blue
Oh
pills.
my
I mean,
God. Oh, goodness. This guy's
But
he got
like,
more
crazy.
stamina now. I don't know how. I
Right,
don't know how you get more stamina when you get older, but
right,
okay.
right.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
that
what I'm
has
saying.
been the one true thing with him. That is the new part of his, I would say, game.
Mhm,
As you watch him or
mhm.
whatever, his condition is crazy. Like you said, when he was fighting Mongian, he was standing up. I was like, "Yo, what type of time he on? He's standing up. He
Right,
like
right.
ready like that." And I'm like, "Okay, okay." But
Yeah,
like the other thing too is the fighters is younger. It's a
yeah,
gap. And then you could look at him. He was like the student in the Floyd era. You know what I mean?
right.
And I think he got that with his experience and his IQ in the ring or whatever. I just think he's a lot higher than a lot of the other guys.
Mhm,
And then with the conditioning now, he knows like, yo, if I'm gonna stay in here and fight, I gotta be in tip top shape. I
mhm,
ain't got nothing else to do. I'm the king of the ring or whatever. Just
mhm.
focus on conditioning. I already got the money in straight. Mexico love me or whatever. Like I'm that dude. Just focus on conditioning. So,
Right,
but I definitely playing a big game in a lot of his victories now, where he could get some of these guys out of here. But
right.
like I said, him and Benavidez, that's going to be an interesting fight to see. So
Dig it. I can
Very,
dig it, man.
very interesting. Very
Yeah,
interesting.
yep. Very interesting. Again, looking forward to what's to come with those two, if that ever comes to fruition. Um, you
yeah,
know,
right.
we'll see. We don't know.
I think
Moving
it
on,
will.
man.
I think it will in the next year or
You think it
two.
will? You think so? In the next year or
His
two, you said?
outro.
Yeah, yeah,
That's going
Because
to
they're
be
gonna
his
throw a
outro.
crazy number at him, so he gonna have to take that.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
I think.
yeah, yeah. I believe I can see it. I can see it happening. All right, man. Well, let's move on to the big show. The big show of the night was Javante Tank Davis versus Frank the Ghost Martin. Um, Very interesting fight, in my opinion. And I enjoyed the fight. I thought it was a highly entertaining fight.
Yeah.
Um, let's break it down. Joe, give me your perspective, man. What's your feelings on things?
Great fight.
Yeah.
Started off typical Tank style or whatever. I thought he kind of was taking a little too long though, because you
Yep.
even heard Calvin say something was like, "Hey, you need to, get busy, like so you need to win these." But Frank started off great or whatever,
Right.
and like I said, he was controlling the fight, where he was walking down, pressuring him, but you could tell that's Tank's style. He's studying him throughout the
Right.
whole time. You could see early in the rounds he was testing him with the feints or whatever, and seeing where he also saw that a lot in the press conferences. Tank, it was like, just give him the flinch, give him the flinch. And then the opportunity came, man. Got to the eighth round just like he caught it or whatever.
Right.
And the opportunity came, big shot, bow, or whatever. But I don't take nothing away from that fight either. So it was just like he did everything what he could do as a boxer or whatever. He
Mm-hmm.
was patient. He walked him down. He stayed active, but the experience wins at the end of the day, and that's the one thing with Tank. Hey, he got knocked.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting, man. Um, At.
I actually think that was a very skillful and intelligent fight fought by Tank. That one.
Mm-hmm.
I do think Frank Martin he started strong. Where I think some of that fight kind of the big moment of being in a big fight. As the fight went on, it started wearing on Frank Martin. So he started determining that he started realizing what he was really dealing with, like the whole magnitude of the moment in that fight. So when he started off, Tank did something he normally don't do automatically. He came out in a high guard and just applied pressure, not physical work rate, but just stand in his face pressure. So Frank started off working your jab, landing, winning rounds early. Now he was winning these rounds, but Tank kind of was giving him them rounds because he wasn't throwing nothing. He was just mentally installing that picture. I'm gonna be in your chest all night. Even though I'm not throwing, I'm still in your way. So Frank's throwing shots, jabs, hooks, punches, straights, kind of standing in the fight. But then also you could tell, and this is what I thought was gonna happen. Frank was doing, he was landing, but he was moving a lot too. And when you moving that much, it's kind of unnecessary movement. Where it was causing unnecessary movement and punching and over kind of anxiety, like anxiousness. You could kind of see, like, all right, he winning these early rounds, but Tank, he's throwing stuff, but it's still really not backing Tank up. You land a nice little combo, but he's still in your chest. So after like 2 or 3 rounds, Frank, you could probably say he was up. You could really say after like 4 rounds, I probably had it like 3-1, maybe like Frank up. But you could kind of see the movement slowly started going downhill. Tank started a little more pressure. You might come up with more 1-2s or to the body, different thing like that. You could kind of see Frank was overthinking, like, I don't want to get hit with some of these shots. Some of these is missing, but I'm hearing they're missing by an inch or two or whatnot. So then as the fight got on by the mid rounds, it Tank really high guarded and really started applying pressure to the combinations. So even when I probably like by like round 4 or 5, I thought Tank kind of was starting to get in that mold where it's starting to bank rounds. And even then when the knockout happened, Frank was on the ropes, but I thought he was more so on the ropes because he was getting worn down and trying to buy time. It wasn't that he was really tired, but you don't if you start off throwing a punch your crazy work rate, you most likely don't want to have to keep that up all fight. So he started kind of leaning on the ropes to kind of still a couple seconds. But and then it happened. He stood on that rope one time too many, and Tank hit him with that hook and that uppercut. And then you could see he kind of froze on that uppercut or that hook. And then he came back with that last left that kind of finished him off like like a fight night knockout, whatever, where you get the extra punch in where they already about to fall. So but it was actually it was actually a good fight though, like good strategic fight. And Derek James was telling him, stay off the ropes, but you're not in that ring, man, and you're not there with the pressure, so it's mentally wearing him down. Tank, he's kind of scientific like that. A lot of people he been getting like that lately, like the IQ kind of baiting you. So then he set them shots up. So I thought it was an excellent fight, and Frank Martin ain't got nothing to be ashamed of. He did a great job. Just dealing with a higher level fighter, higher level thinker with power. It's a dangerous combination.
I agree, man. It was that up. He was actually dead after that uppercut. That cross just put him out of his misery. To be honest with you, but that uppercut, if you go back and watch it, when he hit with the uppercut, Frank was already out of here. He was done. Space somewhere.
His knees was to the
froze,
east.
Like Heron was in his nose.
Yeah, that joint was like wow. He was just oh my god. It was. What was was worse is the uppercut. He was going after the uppercut. But that hook, the way Tank threw that hook, it was almost overkill. Like I was, when he threw the way I'm sorry, not the hook, but when he threw that cross, man, I felt kind of bad for Frank at that point. It was too hard, bro. It was that
he was looking at the roof. He was literally looking at the roof of the church.
Yes, he was. Oh god, that joint was crazy, man. I thought it was an amazing fight. I was very entertained. My sentiments is pretty much like you guys. Early on, I had Frank up. I thought Frank had, at this particular point, I was thinking, wow, Frank and Derek James have, came up with the best game plan so far to beat Tank. I had him clearly beating Tank. I had him clearly outscoring. I had him clearly out
Mm-hmm.
everything. Tank actually let off some bombs too that he was able to get out the way of those bombs, those shots. But like you said, AT, that big night, man, that he's never been on that stage before. Tank is so poised, he's so calm because he's been there before, right? He's been there before multiple times. Frank ain't never been there. Frank kind of, if you ask some people, this fight probably should have happened. He probably should have had 2 to 3 more fights in between this fight, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, it presented itself. He took a chance at greatness, but that moment was maybe a bit too big for him, and we could see it in his herky jerky movements that it was a lot of adrenaline pumping, which adrenaline, as we know, will eventually, once it started to come down, it's going to kill your energy, right? So he slowed down, but he didn't just slow down. Tank was tapping that body, was slowing him down too. It was a few body shots that he hit him flush with, that slowed him down. But I think when it comes to Frank's athleticism, he's crazy athletic, man. He's crazy athletic. I mean, he was even turning Javante. I don't think we've ever seen Javante face look like that in the fight. You know what I'm saying? So to his credit,
No.
he did a wonderful job in the beginning of that fight. Should have kept the fight in the middle of the ring though. But I think the energy wasn't really there, and he was using the ropes to, like you said, AT, not necessarily to because he was tired, but he was trying to use the ropes to strategize a little bit, right? He knew he couldn't keep up that pace. So he would use the ropes to try to figure out how he's going to mount a bigger attack to slow Tank down. Even though Tank was getting hit a lot and all that different stuff, Tank was pushing forward the entire night. And that's scary when you hitting the dude. It's like kind of like Cotto versus Pacquiao. Cotto hit Pacquiao with every goddamn thing, but Pacquiao ain't slow down not one bit until it was over, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in this case, Tank did the same thing. He pushed forward. The interesting thing is this, though. When we talk about him being on the ropes, Derrick James telling him, get off the ropes, get out the corner. He said, and then Derrick James said, if you're going to be on the ropes, you should already kind of, and I'm paraphrasing, you should already kind of have a plan on how you're going to get out, how you're going to get off the ropes or get out of there, right? You should already have something there if you're going to choose to be on the ropes. So here's the thing. After the fight, in an interview with Frank Martin, I forget which outlet it was on, Frank said that has been an issue even in camp, right? In camp, he was on the ropes. He said Derrick James was on him like crazy in camp to get off the ropes, get back to the middle of the ring, get off the ropes, get off the ropes. And he said, that's on him. Derrick James had been scolding him for being on the ropes, even in sparring and at training camp. And that joint translated to the actual fight. So, how you train is how you fight, right? So I'm not really surprised now hearing that this was an issue even in training camp, that he would rely on the ropes. Again, I don't know if it was because the magnitude of the moment was too big, or just overall, because if you're doing it in training camp, maybe you're a little nervous in training camp and you like, damn, so I don't know. But just based on what he was saying in that interview, I was saying, wow, now it all makes sense. You were kind of it was kind of your own demise, for a lack of a better words, when it came to this particular fight, man. But like A said, nothing to hold your head down. This was a big learning experience for Frank. I think Frank, after having this experience and fighting against the top dog, he's going to be a terror for a lot of these dudes, because now fear is gone, right? I don't care what Frank say. There's always a little scaredness. There's always some kind of fear, which gets the adrenaline pumping. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but it kind of makes you herky jerky. It kills your stamina and stuff. That's going to be gone. That's out the window. You fought the top of the food chain. Everybody else is going to be below Tank at this point. And I think he's going to be a terror at this point. He's pissed off. He believes he let people down. He believes he let himself down. He's going to be a monster. And I can't wait to see what he does after that. Tank is special. Straight up. I've been critical of Tank, as y'all know. You know what I'm saying? I can't be too much critical of him because I held Frank in high regards. I said Frank had the better footwork. I said Frank had the better this. Frank could do this. Frank could crack the code. Frank couldn't crack the code. He got his crack. You know what I'm saying? So now I have to now I have to give Tank his just due. Tank is special. Tank is very smart and intelligent in that ring. You know what I'm saying? Like some people try to say he ain't the smartest cat when he talks and stuff like that. But one thing he know how to do is box. He set traps.
Boy,
Exactly.
no.
He set them traps, man. And I mean, and it was a beautiful display. So I gotta take my hats off the Tank and off the Frank, man. Frank is gonna be a champion. Frank is gonna do some great work, man. And sometimes these losses, they either derail you or they propel you. You know what I mean? And in this case, I think it's gonna propel Frank. I think Frank will come out killing. Speaking of that, before we move off this topic, the big question is who is Tank gonna fight next, right? And
I
it
got
looks
another
like
question too.
go ahead. Before I even get there, go ahead.
Nah, it was something we talked about before
Mm-hmm.
with the boxing and with Tank. I don't think
Yeah.
we actually came back and spoke on it. But
Mm-hmm.
does this fight puts Tank at he been snatching everybody's zeros.
You broke up a little bit. Say it
Yeah, you
again.
was breaking up when you
I said,
ask your question. You was breaking up.
oh, I broke out. Sorry about that, fellas. But
Mm-hmm.
does this fight officially makes Tank the face of boxing?
No,
Does it don't?
no,
Yes, he already been the face of boxing.
no. I don't think so. I'll tell you why. AT, if you want to go first, you go first. But no, I say it for one reason and one reason only. I say it for one reason only. May I?
Yes, you may.
Go
As
ahead.
much as
Yes.
big of a Frank fan as I am, right? And you got to understand is based on my particular criteria on who is either pound for pound or who is the face of boxing, whatever the case may be. But as big as a fan of Frank Martin as I am, this still for Tank was a high risk, low reward fight, in my opinion. Now, if you ask me this question and he fought, let's say Devin Haney, or what I was going to say prior to your question, Lomachenko, I might have a slightly different answer.
Mhm.
Also, the next portion we was going to talk about pay-per-view numbers, viability.
Right.
I'm not sure this makes him the face, at least not to me, right? Maybe to everybody else, but at least not to me. This doesn't necessarily make him the face of boxing. Let me tell you this. Let me say this. The face of boxing, in my opinion, is Canelo. Who did Canelo fight just a moment ago? Jaime Munguia, right? Munguia, good fighter, not a super popular fighter, but the numbers talk. The numbers different compared to this fight. And
What
the
did he
reason why the
do? What
numbers
numbers did he do for that fight?
pay-per-view number, I'll once I pass it to you, I'll pull it up.
Okay.
But this is how you know you're the face of boxing, because it don't matter who the hell you face. If you can put the butts in seats and you can rack up the pay-per-view buys. That's how you know a person is the face of boxing. So that's why I say no. Go ahead. Hey, I'm gonna pull the
I
information
do
while you
agree with that,
Mhm.
but there's a couple reasons why I think the face of boxing and the biggest earner, I don't think that's mutually exclusive. I think with Tank, I think for the past 4 or 5 years, anytime he fights, you see the engagement, social media, you
Yeah.
see all different races. Either you might love him, you might hate him. He gonna draw a reaction out of anybody. I've been in the fights. I've been in multiple fights of his. The arenas, the energy in there it's electric, and it's everybody is like on bated breath watching him fight. To me, that's the face of boxing when you can fight, not necessarily having to have excitement, but his fights are exciting. They're tense watching them. With Canelo fights, he has been the face of boxing. He's been doing well for a long time, but as of right now, I don't think he holds the pulse the way Tank does. You could be a big money earner, but a lot of people, and I think a lot of his is also being that he's from Mexico. Other countries support their fighters at a higher level. They got more blind loyalty to fighters, no matter what their skill level is. That's just like if Anthony Joshua fight, he might not go crazy in the US, but in the UK, unbelievable support. So US, we're probably like the only country where if we got a great fighter, you might have the bulk or majority of people putting that fighter down. He could be the best fighter, but he'll get the most hate from his own country. You'll get Americans cheering for other fighters against the American fighter the majority of the time. But I think Tank, like I said, far as his excitement and far as the engagement, far as online and whatnot, I don't really put that much value far as numbers because I know how we are. I can just say for myself, I watched that joint on the Fire Stick. I didn't uh I didn't pay the money for that. Now I don't think I'm the only one that did that. So Canelo might have got his Mexican people hold him down for Cinco de Mayo. They might have held him down, but then we hear from that Usyk and that Fury fight, they said they probably lost over tens of millions of streams and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
the consumer, we're not
It's been a
consuming the way
common
we
thing
used
lately.
to.
Yeah.
We're not consuming the way we used to. So Canelo has done good numbers, and Spence too, and other people, Wilder, but I don't necessarily use that as the selling point. I go off like the face, as far as the excitement, as far as your fights, how many people engage, and the reactions people get. You get lightning rods. I don't think Canelo's a lightning rod. I think a lot of people like Canelo, even the industry, they respect him. Now you got some people all think, oh, he should fight Benavidez or he might be doing this, but as a whole, he don't really get a lot of bad press. But Tank, you'll find people saying any and everything about Tank. It's criticizing anything. You might say, okay, well, you beat him. Well, he lost these rounds, or he did this, or people just find reasons. Like you're not when you that much of a lightning rod. To me, you got the pulse of boxing. That's why I consider him the face of boxing because no matter what he does, anything he does is gonna draw a reaction out of people. And on in the ring, outside the ring, every his moves is tracked. Canelo, when he does his thing, you don't really hear. He kind of fall back, and then when his fight come, the actual fight night, we watch because we're boxing fans. I mean, that's why I leave it like that.
I think I agree with a lot of that, but I also think a lot. I think a lot of things you said also can be applied to Canelo as well. For example, you spoke on the personal experience that you had at a Tank fight and how electrifying and on the edge of the seat people were. So that's from a personal experience. But we've never been to a Canelo fight, right? I'm almost positive it's probably the exact same way. Watch Canelo in a higher fight against Triple G or against somebody, and he turn the tide and win the fight or whatever the case may be. So it's for me, it's hard. It's hard for me to really gauge those two things. I've never been to a Tank fight
I'm
or
saying that from previous years. I've said pretty much from 2020 on, Tank is probably the face. Before that, I gave it to Canelo. His was the most
yeah,
engaging.
yeah. Okay. And then like even with the whole engagement thing, like online, right? Like I'll be very honest with you. I don't know how engaging Canelo is because Canelo don't even engage in English for the most part. But I do agree with you about the hate that American black fighters get, specifically American black fighters. You can be American from any major city going against a Spanish fighter, and that Spanish fighter is probably going to get more love, especially in predominantly Spanish cities, even though you born and raised there, you know what I'm saying, and donated there and did all this different stuff. And this other fighter may not be born and raised, might not even be from there. We've seen it happen. You know what I'm saying?
Floyd. Floyd all
Yeah,
day.
not
The Ricky
even not
Hatton
even
joint,
from
that
it.
was crazy. The
Yeah,
UK Cats game in Vegas, they mobbed
absolutely.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even if you can look at hell, you could take really you could if you in Texas, California, Vegas, uh Miami, most of these markets have huge Latino
Yeah.
populations. And again, for anybody watching this podcast,
Mm-hmm.
this is not a shot or a throw at our brown brothers and sisters. We're just breaking down, what goes on in boxing with fighters, right? There's always been a rivalry with Black and Hispanic fighters, but if you in these markets, especially a Vegas or LA or Texas, it's going to be predominantly Mexican or Hispanic in those
Uh-huh.
areas rooting for a fighter who is not necessarily born and raised there, but he's of the same ethnic group, and they'll end up kind of hating. When I say they, I don't mean Hispanics per se, but the majority of the praise is going to go to that Hispanic fighter, and likewise. So I don't disagree with that, and I don't think that's a area of contention because we've seen it. We've been to a Floyd fight. You know what I'm saying? We've been in Vegas to a Floyd fight, and you look around the arena and you see all the Mexicans got the flags wrapped
Got the
around them.
flags.
We had one right behind us. He had the flag wrapped around. Like they serious about their fighters. In Vegas is all Mexican, bro. Like it's all Mexican. But Floyd has brought millions upon millions of dollars to that city. He blew that city up more than it was. You know what I'm saying? Like this dude need a statue downtown Vegas as much as he's done for that city. But he ain't, so I agree with you on that thing. And I don't necessarily disagree with your points about Tank being the face. He very well could be the face. I just say based on my own particular criteria that I think that Canelo is the face. Do I think that's changing? Yes. I think Tank, especially now that Tank is more vocal, he stepped out on his own too. He is very engaging. I definitely think that he's becoming the face. Hell, he probably could be the face right now. But Canelo is such a household name. Like I know people who don't watch no boxing but know who Canelo is. You know what I'm saying? Canelo has major brands that sponsor him, so his reach is very far. This dude got Dolce and Gabbana, and again, this doesn't take anything from Tank because Tank got what Tank got going on. But this dude reach is so crazy when it comes to the commercial world and how he's a completely a household name with casuals. You know what I'm saying? Like casuals know exactly who he is. These are a few reasons why I think that he's the face of boxing because he is a superstar outside of the ring, outside of the genre, the sport in general. So yeah, that's all I got.
No, good point.
Yeah.
Definitely a good point.
I think Tank right now though, for the last 4 years, I think you could make all the same cases. And I do think numbers wise, I don't think this fight did that great, but just that last Ryan fight, that's probably the biggest pay-per-view since probably like Canelo and Triple G. So it's really about the right opponents too.
Because
him and Ryan did
Munguia
1.2.
500.
Say it again.
Yeah, and said Canelo and Munguia did 500.
Canelo Munguia did 500. Tank Martin did. The official numbers have not come out. They're saying between 200 and 400 though, and so yeah, him and Ryan did 1.2 million. They did 1.2 million. So that's a big.
But that's been the going thing though, since where they've been noticing downtick in numbers because they mentioned like 20 million people pirated it for the Usyk fight. So you start seeing numbers like that pop up, and then you heard of issues like that too with the UFC, and then Dana White try to do like some type of stop block and stuff like that. Saying the ongoing issue recently. So you're going to see the sales dropping. You won't be able to block that though too much. But the things they going up higher in price, man. Because you got to think back in the day when Tyson used to fight, that was what $40-$50.
Yeah.
Floyd You know what I'm
Inflation
saying? And
keep creeping
is
up.
it got up to like 60? And I mean, now you talk about 80.
80. I think
70,
Floyd
80.
Pacquiao was
Inflation.
almost $100, wasn't it?
It was 100.
Yeah, it was $100. I had a fight party and I was
Yeah.
charging everybody like a buck
Mm-hmm.
20. Yeah, yeah. No, it's for real. So,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
um,
The more
yeah, fellas. So,
technology come, the more streaming is just really
yeah,
hurting boxing. As far
yeah,
as people numbers, what they actually are capable of doing.
Yeah.
big time, big time, big time. Yeah, I agree. I agree, man. Let's move on a little bit, fellas. Coming up July 27th in Detroit at Little Caesars Arena, our girl, my GWOAT, Clarissa Shields, will be moving up a couple of weight classes, going up to heavyweight to fight Vanessa LePage. I'm going to pronounce this wrong. I think is Janesi. I believe it's Janesi. This is for the WBC heavyweight title. This is a
You mean
first
light heavyweight?
heavyweight.
Heavy?
Yeah, heavy.
So is this a boxing match or a MMA?
This is a sanctioned WBC boxing match. Clarissa Shields has jumped up two weight classes, I believe it is, two weight classes to fight for a
Are their weight
heavyweight.
classes built different or are they
Yes.
the same weight? Because it's heavy.
No.
What is a heavy for a woman?
So heavy for a woman, and let me get you the exact numbers. It's different for a man. I think men start at 201 if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah,
but
that's right. That's right.
let me get let me see. Let me get it for you. While I'm getting it, no, she jumped up two weight classes um to fight. She said, she was also inspired by Roy Jones, who did it. Let's see here. Boxing.
That's interesting. I don't know if you want to keep doing that. You can keep jumping weight, and then does she still intend on going back down, defending her titles at her current
Yeah.
weights?
Yeah, at her current weights, but she says she can't. She's not really going to be going down any lower than that. So let's see. So in women's boxing, heavyweight limit is, I say weights varies. So I guess anything after 170, 175 is considered lightweight. So anything after 175 is considered to be
They
heavy.
don't got like no cruiser weight or nothing for
They
women.
they don't have, so no, they got heavy, light heavy, super middle, junior welter, junior welter, and what else they got? Let me see.
I respect it because that's somebody she's trying to be great, but I think that potentially could backfire. I don't know if you want to keep testing them waters like that. Because
You
you
know
gain
what?
that muscle, you get stronger. I think that was Roy's ultimate downfall. He gained all the way up to heavyweight. He was
Yeah,
still strong and fast, but when he lost that weight, he lost 18, 20 pounds of muscle to get back
muscle.
down. It never
Yeah,
was the same. Punch resistance, reflexes. So I would
yeah,
hope that don't happen to her. I don't know how many pounds she's moving up. She's going up two weight
right.
classes. I don't know how many pounds that is, but I just hope that wouldn't happen. Her reflexes nothing get shot.
I hope not either. I hope not. I hope her reflexes is like you said is good. I know I watched the not the weigh in but the press conference. She is bigger than this chick. She's bigger, taller, all of the above. Clarissa is, it's interesting on the off season you see her, she's, and I mean this respectfully. She she thick. You know what I'm saying? Like she walks around at
Mm-hmm.
for sure gotta be 180, 190, or maybe more, or something. Well, maybe not
Dang.
more, but I would say maybe
She's
180-ish. She
solid,
probably
bro.
went down. Yeah, she's solid. She definitely solid.
She's
But
straight
she's
solid. Yeah.
but yeah, no, she thick than a mug. So and then when she cuts weight, she leans out really well for her fights. But when I saw the press conference and I saw them face to face, I'm like,
She don't got the most pop, so I don't know. You get going up there.
yeah,
Not your power don't always carry up, and if you ain't really the hardest puncher now,
yeah.
I'll tune in. So I'll be interested to see how it go.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting. She's
Mm-hmm.
going against the champion. She's chasing greatness. Again, this is something that she's getting ready to achieve, something that no other boxer has achieved. And being, she's going to be. I'm sure she's going to try to unify a heavyweight, be a four-time
Yeah.
unified heavyweight, four-time unified champion. Just you know, go do your thing, man. Chase greatness.
Yeah.
First female to fight and win MMA in Saudi Arabia, first woman to fight in Saudi Arabia, period. You know what I'm saying? Like, so her accolades is crazy. Me personally, I don't have a lot to say about that fight as of now, but as it continues to build, I have more to, to contribute, but I don't have a ton to contribute now. I just kind of wanted to put it out there. Do you guys have anything you want to say about the fight?
I gotta look into it a little bit more. I don't really know too much about Vanessa, but at the same time too, when you look at her, and like I said, I did see pictures of the original press conference and stuff, and like you spoke on the size difference, the special, just like how we talk about, saying Tank, but just as an athlete, like when you talk about LeBron or whatever, there's the special DNA and just how they're built and stuff.
Yeah,
she remind me of like one of the Serena sisters or whatever. It's like those type of solid women are just athletes. Back in the T-Rex days, she was sparring with dudes the whole time.
Absolutely.
And shit, growing up on the block, out here, you would look at her and be like, yeah, bro, you might not want to mess with her. She's one of the chicks that will beat your ass, bro. Like, chill out. Yeah, I mean, it's like I don't put nothing past her, like, or who she going to fight, because she's literally has dominated women's boxing, bro.
Completely dominated and not really dropped many people. She hasn't, she doesn't have a high knockout rate, but she completely outworks her opponents. That's one thing. That's why I'm not really worried about her going up to heavyweight, because she's always, again, just like AT said, the power may not translate going up to heavyweight. But I'm hoping that the skill does. I'm hoping that the movement does, because yes, she don't knock everybody out, but it'd be lopsided against the best champions. When she fought against Hannah Rankin, you know what I'm saying, who at the time was considered one of the greatest female champions of our time, and 25-0, and they were saying this Clarissa can't do this. That was amateur night. It was an amateur show. The way she ran through this chick, you would think that she just started boxing. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like the way, unanimous decision against what's the one girl that they keep following each other. She just had her MMA debut as well. I forget her name. Savannah Marshall. Unanimous decision against Savannah Marshall. Savannah was supposed to beat her. She got dropped.
That's the one who beat her in the amateurs, right?
Yes. Yeah. That's the one that beat her in the amateurs. But if you ever watched that, if y'all ever watched that fight, somebody got paid. Somebody got paid. That's all I'm gonna say. If y'all ever get a chance, yes. If you ever get a chance to watch that fight,
I watched it.
Somebody got. Ain't no way in this world Clarissa lost that fight. I mean, and that's not even for Clarissa. That happens to a bunch of American fighters too. To keep it with you. But somebody got paid, because that was lopsided, one-sided too. I don't know how Shorty won that fight, but whatever. But anyway, interesting. I'm a big Clarissa Shields fan, so rooting for her, hoping that she get that gold that she came for, man. Anything else for that, fellas?
No, I mean, I'll probably have more as it get closer.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll do our homework. Again, just like you, Joe. I'm not super familiar with the Vanessa LePage, Genesi, so I'll do my homework. We'll have more to talk about as it comes. Oh, one thing I do want to say is I'm a little kind of taken back at the lack of coverage that she's getting from some of these outlets. And when I say outlets, I'm talking about your new media. What they call that? They call this new media. A lot of the new media ain't even touching or talking about her fighting in Detroit. You know what I'm saying? Going up to heavyweight. I seen some old media coverage of it, but some of this new media talking disrespectfully about ESPN and disrespectfully about the other places, which is completely understandable. I don't really see y'all covering Clarissa Shields, or the women in general like y'all supposed to. So I just want to put that out there. If somebody want to respond, please do. I would be much. I would
Yeah,
oblige.
women kind of they don't get as much due as they should.
They don't.
So that's coverage.
Right.
That's all. Really, kind of all sports. You see that in WNBA,
Yes.
college
Yes.
basketball. So you
Yeah.
see
Yeah.
they don't get as much credit as they deserve because a lot of those fights, some women they get down to it. They get
Yes.
busy.
They be getting
They got
busy.
skill, but some of those turn into dog fights, and
Yeah.
they're very
Yes.
entertaining.
Yeah.
Very
Yes. They do.
entertaining.
Yeah. I
Especially like
agree.
with the MMA fights too, with the females. Like, yo, like I'm more entertained by some of the female fights than some of the dude fights
For
be.
sure.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, you gotta give them that respect. Like, I ain't gonna lie,
Dogs.
I would love the day when they start doing pay-per-view bouts and you have some of those big women fights on the boxing card. Like,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. That would
Yeah,
be good. And I think, as a matter of fact, if I remember correctly, I think Clarissa Shields was an undercard on a major male card, and she's the first, and she put it together herself, a first all female pay per view boxing card. Like, she's a groundbreaker. She's the
mm,
first. So I understand that women don't get a lot of love and praise, but I mean, I think there's just some people you should pay attention to. You know what I'm saying? Just like in the male in the boxing world for males, we talk about a lot of them. We can't cover everybody, but there are some
right,
fighters that you should definitely be covering. And I think on the female side, you should be covering Clarissa all the time. You should be covering Amanda Serrano all the time, Katie Taylor all the time. Alicia Baumgartner all the time, because these are literally the women that make the female portion of the sport move. So we should be talking about them, right? But that's what separates us from
sir.
them. That's what separates us from them, because we don't discriminate. We love boxing. We love boxing. Not just men, not just women, but we love the sport. If I seen little two kids get it popping in the sparring or whatever, and it look dope, I'm gonna talk about it. You know what I'm saying? Straight up. So
Right.
yeah, so
sir.
let's move on real quick, y'all. So our time is kind of winding down. So there's other stuff that I want to talk about, but we can hold on to some of it. What I want to kind of close with is Errol Spence. So recently, when I say recently, I'm talking about maybe like yesterday, day before yesterday. There's been a lot of talk about who his next trainer is going to be. There was recently a picture with him and Roy Jones together. Um, First and foremost, let's start there before we go any further. Errol Spence and Roy Jones. I've been seeing a lot of media that has been very negative against the possibility of him training with Roy Jones. I want to get y'all thoughts on it, man. I'm gonna start with Joe. I'm gonna start with you first, man. What are your thoughts with Arrow possibly joining uh, Roy Jones's gym and training over them, or Roy Jones kind of coming into the picture in some way?
When I saw the news yesterday, I was like, wow. I was out on my walk when I first saw it. So I
Yeah,
didn't go right back and the different platforms talking about,
right.
their points. But just like my point alone, like when I saw it, I was like, I understand Roy Jones has been a little bit more active around the sport of boxing. I mean,
Sure.
he's out there a little bit more.
Mhm.
So I was looking at it, maybe is it something, or is he actually getting with him to train a little bit? Um, my opinion of do I like it or not, I'm not sure or
Mhm.
whatever for
Mhm.
Arrow. Because
Mhm.
like honestly, just thinking about everything with what he's going on, he got this fight coming up with Fundora. He like the track records of fighters who switch trainers before they, after taking a loss and going into another big fight. It don't translate well
Mhm.
or whatever, just from me watching. And I kind of would like to see him stay with Derrick James or whatever. I think they could work the kinks out. And it's only been one. But you could definitely learn a lot from Roy.
Mhm.
But I think when it comes to style of fightings, um, I don't know. I just don't think like to see him training with him. I don't think that I'm gonna be like, ooh yeah. Like I think it'd be like,
Mm, mm.
where your mind at? Yeah, I mean like what you really thinking right now?
Right, 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 right. Cool. I can dig it. I can dig it. At.
Yeah, and I see. I hadn't even heard that. I was just earlier today. I was looking online at something else, and I seen that picture on there. I was like, that's interesting.
Mm,
It's interesting in a few different ways. Well, first and foremost, Spence and Roy kind of they had a difference of opinions. Errol Spence kind of really leading up to this Crawford fight. A lot of boxers kind of favored Crawford because they study skill sets. So Roy was one of those people. He wasn't dissing Errol Spence. He was just like, I look at that fight. I think Crawford has a better chance based on the stylistic differences of how they fight.
mm,
It seemed like Errol Spence kind of took offense to that. So I would notice he would throw like shots like, well, Roy this or he ain't do that or this like that. But something like that, it kind of comes across like defensive in that way. So now situation happened with Crawford, he loses. I'm pretty sure he's probably humble now, but overall, far as that fight, far as that matchup and that chemistry, I'm not necessarily sure they have chemistry in that way. But I do think Roy is an intelligent boxer, as far as trainer, and he can give him insight. I wouldn't mind him being in his corner, giving him insight. But I don't know if you add him as your lead trainer and you got a fight coming in the next 4 or 5 months. I don't think I think that might be too drastic of a change to going
Hmm.
into a big fight like this. And then from what I see, he's talking about he's not gonna fight that long anyway. So his head already kind of mentally not in the right spot, I don't think, going
who said
forward.
that?
So Arrow, he tweeted. He said that it might not be too many more fights for
Yeah.
me or something like that. Like
Mm,
only you might only got one or two more. So you talking that retirement talk. Everybody says Sean Porter was talking retirement for Crawford and got
yeah.
out. So if you talking like that,
Hmm.
then you got a lot weighing on you, far as lawsuit, different things like that. So
Mm,
I I don't mind Roy coming in there, far as giving guidance and just telling them what he sees, but if he's not gonna go back with Derek James, which I hope he does, I hope they can get that worked out because I just think you hate to see somebody you came in with they part like that, and
Right.
especially towards the end of his career. I hope they
yeah.
get that worked out, but if they didn't, I would think somebody like maybe a Calvin Ford or like I said, a Virgil Hunter. I think Virgil Hunter was a really great far as mentally working on your psyche and helping you navigate tough moments. Spence kind of is
Mm,
in a tough moment right now where if he loses this fight, we gonna have a lot of questions like, yo, do you really know still to be doing this? Because even I was watching some interviews, he was talking when he was doing the promoting with Frank. He was talking about how he was enjoying it and how he don't have to take punishment in this and he's liking it and he could see himself doing that. So it's like I really just want to see his mentality. As far as where I know he'll probably train hard or whatnot, but I always said that I always felt like the accident and the damages he took, I felt he was regressing already skill wise, and I don't think you can really improve in that short of a time, and you're not gonna really improve as a fighter as you get older. I think you get sharper, you understand things better, but I don't know if physically he'll be able to
Hmm.
execute the ideas and things that a Roy Jones would give to you. Because Roy Jones is probably the most athletically gifted fighter ever. It's like Michael
Right.
Jordan trying to coach. You're a whole different level. So what you say and what you was able to do, I don't think he'll be able to execute that. What L can execute what Roy be able to do. So I don't think that's a good match. But if that goes down, I'll be glad to be wrong. I don't wish bad or nobody. So if they link and it works out and they be successful, I'm all for it. But just off the rip, my initial thoughts is I don't really see that as a great stylistic matchup, training wise. Because Roy has the knowledge, but I don't know if Spence would be able to execute that in that shorter period of time. Because I think the things he needs to work on probably is more defensively, head movement, things like that. more so than offense. So if you're not gonna bring somebody in there to enhance his defense, to be more fluid on the change as far as his transition or offense to defense to protecting itself, I don't know. It's gonna be rough.
Or I think both of you guys make good points. What the general consensus is that I see is that people think it's a terrible idea for him to be trained by Roy Jones, for the very same reasons that you said, At. Roy Jones was athletically gifted. He was God gifted athletically, but once the athleticism started to kind of wear off, um, they saw the holes in his boxing. Fundamentally, he was not strong in a lot of areas because he was able to rely on that pure athleticism to put him in places and positions that a lot of people couldn't, just because he was just that crazy of an athlete. And then a lot of people are saying that, how can you teach somebody, certain things when you don't even have them certain things, especially again after the athleticism started to go down where age hit you, right? You didn't even have certain fundamental skills. You leaned on the athleticism more than anything. You take a look at somebody like Chris Eubanks Jr., right? It's interesting, in an interview, Roy Jones says, I don't train people to fight like I fought. I train them to fight like they want to fight. But then when we look at Chris Eubanks Jr., when Roy's starting to fight, did he not look Roy Jones-ish in those fights? Hands down, all that bobbing, weaving, moving. Am I wrong in saying that? Like, he was he was doing a lot of Roy Jones emulating, right?
He used to fight like high guard, crazy work rate before he got with Roy, like, right?
Yes, yeah, big
Okay.
time, big time. Then now the guard is low. The guard is low. The movement, you in and right. So it's hard for me to really think that Roy is capable of training someone in a different manner than how he fights, how he trains. But I will say this: I'll say, contrary to what everybody's saying, my answer is no. I don't think that Roy is the right trainer for Errol. But I don't think he's necessarily a terrible trainer for what Errol needs. And what I mean is this: Errol, his entire career is based on fundamentals. He does not need a trainer to come through and drill him on fundamental boxing, right? On fundamental footwork, on any of these things. He's one of the most fundamental boxers of this era. You don't need nobody to come through and teach him how to throw a jab. He's one of the best to throw jabs, one of the highest jab value punches with the jab in this particular era. He don't need none of that. What does he need? He needs to learn some elusiveness. As At said, he needs to learn some head work instead of always parrying and patting shots away. The ones that you're not going to be able to pat and parry away, you got to zone from, right? You got to move out the way. So he needs somebody to work on, those kind of things with him. That's what Roy Jones does. Roy Jones used complete pure head work, body movement. He's twisting of the torso to get out of the way, out of shots. If you were to take that, not all of it, but just the things that's quote unquote missing from Errol's defensive game, paired with his strong fundamental boxing style, I think you could have possibly something pretty crazy. It's just when you try to, jump and do the weird, crazy angles and all that different stuff for fighting, then you're gonna find yourself in trouble because you just don't have the athleticism that prime Roy had. You know what I'm saying? So like all y'all, I'm not sure that's the best move for him. I have not been convinced that Roy Jones can train somebody in a way that completely benefits them and does not emulate and imitate his particular style in the ring. I can't help but to go look at Chris Eubanks Jr. after he's been trained by Roy. He's a different fighter. He's a different guy. Sorry, it is what it is. He's like trying to be mini Roy Jones, or should I say, tried to be mini Roy Jones, right? With that being stated, fellas, At, since you kind of already touched on it, I'll circle back to you. Who and why do you who? So which trainer and why that trainer would be good for where Errol Spence is currently in his career?
I think I've said I believe Virgil Hunter would
Yeah.
be the best person because Virgil Hunter is that big uncle, that big homie that he's grounded in his faith and he understands the psyche because he used to work as a correction officer and things like that,
Right,
juvenile. So he dealt with a lot of young men and
right,
trying
right.
trouble situations, dealing with trauma, stuff like that. So
Mm-hmm.
that probably he was a big case of how
Mm-hmm.
Andre Ward was able to reach the heights he reached because a lot of things Andre Ward we know was not focused outside the ring, different
Mm-hmm.
things, running wild, drugs, all like that. But
Mm-hmm.
he never lost a fight from 14 on to retirement. So
Right.
the discipline I think he instills Virgil Hunter. I think the psyche. I think Errol Spence's most important thing right now is his psyche. We can work on drills. I think no matter who he gets trainer wise, I'm not sure that it's going to be enough time to implement it within 3 or 4 months. I think when
Mm-hmm.
you get a new trainer,
Yeah.
you just need time to drill, work on things, find different things, find what works, find what doesn't,
Mm-hmm.
tinker with things. This fight coming in October, I don't. Whoever come in there, I don't think it's going to be enough time. But I would think Virgil really have to work on his psyche because it's a lot coming from your first loss in one of the most probably hype fights in the last 5 years, and then to lose in the fashion you did. So it just his aura of invincibility kind of changed. So that's gonna be his hardest battle. I think Virgil Hunter is somebody who can navigate him through that. Now somebody a second pick below that potentially is Calvin Ford and Kenny, the Tank team, because you can see they keep Tank disciplined for his own weight and things like that. I know Errol Spence previously used to battle blow up in weight, then
Mm-hmm.
majority of the camp you fighting to get down. If he's already in decent shape now, then that's half the battle. You can work on drilling in camp rather than a fat camp losing the weight. So I think the
Mm-hmm.
discipline with Tank team, and those are the main two. I think stylistically that can help him because if he's fighting Fundora, these guys, I think they've been on the big stage again. Errol Spence been on the big stage, but technically, this Crawford fight was his biggest stage. It was a different level of pressure. So everybody say that he was looking spaced out or whatever, or high or whatever before the fight. It's if that's the case, it's a reason for that. It could have been stress mentally, could have been weight issues. I heard different things. So it's a lot of different things, but it can ultimately come down to mentally too, where he was for
Mm-hmm.
that fight. So
Right.
I think he needs somebody to navigate his mental. I think Virgil would be the one to do that if he's still active like that.
Great points, man. Great points. Joe, what about you, brother? You can give us a one and two as well.
Um, the one I was honestly thinking of to be best to happen is Calvin. Like At said, it's the mental thing. I think that's the issue right now with Earl.
Mm-hmm.
And I think somebody with Calvin, with his history in Baltimore and stuff like that, he knows trauma. Yeah, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and I think
Yeah.
that's exactly what about when we talk about Earl Spence, whether like to me it or not. But those car accidents you was in, brother, was nothing normal. Yeah, I mean, so it's like I think he'd be the best person with him, somebody that keep him focused on boxing. But like you said, the team, the tension between them, Earl and stuff like that. I don't think he's going to get the proper camp that he wants in that type of atmosphere with people like Tank and stuff like around. So I don't really see that coming to life. Um, Second, I'm not really sure. Say Porter's father,
Kenny.
um, training him, and yeah, Kenny Porter, and I
That's
say
not
that
bad.
just because it's like that father son relationship, like it's something deeper or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like you say you just got to kind of tap in with that, but then you still need somebody that's going to push the limits because, like when you talk about fundamentals, where Earl he don't need nobody to really tell him that. He could kind of continue to go back and doing what he did, but it's just now you got to amp it up. Let's get your mind moving. And like you said, he needs to move. Saying learn that the head game and stuff like that. But Roy Jones, saying, hey, come into my camp or whatever. What I'm saying? Show me some drills, show me some footwork or head movements, get me going or whatever. That'll work. But outside of that too, I kind of rather see him stay home or whatever.
I
And
agree.
just staying there with Derrick Jones is just the game to be doing that. And especially if you're talking about, this fight here might not be too many more. The same thing with Derrick James. I heard him mention on Porter's podcast or whatever that it's probably another 3 more years. Then he's done or whatever. Just stay where you at. Stay where it's working. You've been there for years or whatever. Don't break it. Saying if it ain't, don't change it if it ain't broke. You know what I mean? So
I got a quick question for you, Joe. Do you think with the Errol Spence and the Derrick James, I would love to see that a reunion. Do you think that can be salvaged with the lawsuit and all like this? And you seeing at the weigh in, they ain't even speak to each other type deal.
I did notice that they didn't speak, but at the same time too, to see how I ain't gonna say cordial because they did not interact, but it was no tension over there. Like you didn't see like the nasty eye looks, nothing like that. It just seemed like the guys just moved right past each other and did that. You talk about money in the game and the sport or whatever. I think with them because they're level-headed brothers, I think it would be salvageable to figure something out and to, especially you talk about more fights or whatever. Just fix it, put it in the contract. How much you gonna pay this brother and pay the man? I mean, put the bonuses in there, pay the man. Yeah, you ain't paying me. I can't come work for you if you owe me money. I mean, that's just the way it's gonna go. So
Yeah, that felt like me and my lady mad at each other. Silent treatment. She on the couch and I'm walking by her. I'm in the bed. She walking by and nobody
exactly
saying
what
nothing.
it's like.
I'm like, dang, what is that?
But I feel like that's a better situation than they be like, no, get that mother off the stage. You know what I mean? You know how it is, what I'm saying, when you get some
Yeah,
detentions and egos, what we normally see in the sport of boxing. We did not see nothing at all.
they
So I
professional
think it's
about it. Yeah,
didn't see that. It was very professional about it. But like I said, if it was like some AB stuff, you flying off or whatever, like then it ain't gonna work. But I still think it's hope for the two.
what you think, Mom? I want to hear what you got to say, big dog.
Yes, sir. Going back to just what y'all was talking about, even during the press conference, they always had that big dude in between them. You noticed that between Earl and Derrick James. So when I peeked that was so funny. But it's and I'll get back to topic in a second. But it is interesting. Like they are like you said, kind of like I guess we could use the term cordial for the most part. Like there's like. Yes, they don't say nothing to each other. They don't talk to each other, but you can't get them to do interviews talking dirty about each other. You can't get them to say anything wrong about each other. When I watched the homie Cigar Talks interview, he was asking him like, "Have you spoke to Errol?" He said, "Yeah, I spoke to Errol 3 weeks ago. He was on vacation with the family. He out living his life. That's what he's and that's it. And like you couldn't get no more from him. And they asked,
But wasn't that right when he kicked him out the gym though at that time already? But it just hadn't came out.
Yeah, I think it was around that time.
It
Yeah.
happened right at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah, it's right. Yeah, right. Yeah, around that time. So it's interesting. Just like y'all, man. The best case scenario is for them to get back together and figure it out, and and get back to winning. People, we got to. Derrick James is a hell of a trainer, and Errol's a hell of a fighter, and they came up in this thing together. You know what I'm saying? It came up totally together. Like, you know what I mean? This is not somebody that he met in the middle of his career. No, he came up with him from jump, from the beginning of his professional career, and really molded him. Because people got to remember, for a little bit, Spence had a different trainer than Derek. This is why people say that he has somewhat of a Mexican style because he was trained by
Yeah,
Mexican. You know what I'm
black
saying?
Mexican.
Yeah, black Mexican, right. He go forward, beat the brakes off you, right? So James redefined that. He didn't have no for real fundamental skills prior to working with Derek James, and Derek James gave him that. So, like y'all, like anybody else, I would love if they could resolve it. My only question and concern is, let's say, for example, they do resolve it. Is there going to be any resentment, at the core, right? That keeps them from being able to have that relationship, because the big thing about them is they had relationship. They would be on the phone talking about family and kids, and he said him and Errol will come to the gym and they just sit down and just chop it up about whatever, and not even necessarily get to the training. They could, because they were friends. They were it was big brother, little brother. And if you can't totally get past it, even if and I think the situation is maybe a little bit more intricate than we put, right, than a lot of people put. We don't know the for real ins and outs, but we did see the paperwork saying that he owed him money. So if Arrow coughed up the bread and paid him the money, could in some way, somehow, could Derek guarantee that bygones is bygones, right? Probably not. Could Arrow guarantee that as bygones be bygones? Because for whatever reason in his mind, he believes that he don't own that bread. Maybe not. Maybe he pay him and say, I'm paying you to get off my back and to make all this legal situation, but really deep down, I don't really mess with you like that. These are the things that, and we know it. We've been friends with people where we've eventually ended it cordially, but in your mind, it'll never be the same again. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like
Sure.
it possibly could be one of those things, right? So just to give y'all my answer though. Everything y'all said, man, was on point, man. Like it's tough to teach somebody different things in such a short period of time. 4 months 4 or 5 months is not a lot of time to learn anything, right? It takes time. So I think for my number one pick, Sugar Hill would probably be my number one pick. Here's why. Sugar Hill comes from that Crunk Gym lineage. Beautiful lineage, crazy lineage. And what they do at Crunk Gym is they don't try to dismantle you as a boxer and put you back together. That's not what they do. Arrow's 34. He's in the winters of his career. His career is almost done. A couple more years, maybe, even if he gets to it. He's near the end. So it wouldn't make sense for him to get with somebody who's going to try to teach him a whole new way of boxing, a whole new style of boxing, especially when his particular style has been hugely successful just up until recently. You know what I'm saying? You need to get with somebody who's going to take what he has and supersize, maximize that joint. And that's what Crunk Gym does. That's what, rest in peace, Manny Stewart did. That's what Sugar Hill has done with Tyson Fury. He's taken what they already have and supersized it and maxed it out to where you're getting kind of like the best return in shorter periods of time based on what you already got, not based on completely new things. They sprinkle, and we saw it. We seen like how Sugar Hill will sprinkle new things into the training, but it's more of a sprinkle instead of just dropping a heavy load of new information on you and expecting you to kind of ingest it and be able to
Pause.
Damn, we're gonna do it. We're gonna be 60 years old pausing, I guess. Whatever. Pause. All right. Yeah, pause. My bad. So anyway, yeah, so it's just information overload for at this point, right? And Sugar Hill doesn't necessarily overload you with information. He takes what you have, give you little building blocks, but he maximizes what you have. So I think from a purely from a training standpoint, I think Sugar Hill would be a wonderful way to go. He's a well-rounded coach. You got a lot of coaches out here. Kind of if we go back to Roy Jones, who have particular things that they're good at may not be so good at other things. Sugar Hill is really good at the whole fighter, right? Teaching, training, a complete fighter. Also, we've seen that when it comes to strategizing, got a great mind when it comes to strategizing. We heard him in the corner with Tyson Fury, walking him through some very difficult parts of the fight, getting him through with some great advice, with some great advice. Errol gonna need stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? He's gonna need things like that. So Sugar Hill would be my number one. My number two would probably be Virgil Hunter. Probably Virgil Hunter. Pretty much for everything that AT said, man. The mental thing. You know what I'm saying? That the psyche, that aspect of not only being a trainer, but being a big brother, father figure to him to help him through the tougher times in life. You know what I'm saying? We don't know where Errol mind truly is. I can say that I think his mind is strong based on stuff that he says online because I don't know him personally, so I'm just basing it off those interactions and stuff. But truth be told, when the phones is closed and the computers is closed, where is his mind when it comes to boxing? When it comes to the traumatic experience from the car accident, the second car accident, the retina tear, the surgeries, blah, 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 blah. I don't care how strong you are. Those things do take their tolls on people. It just does, right? And he needs somebody, I think, who can empathize with him in that way and help him navigate through that. But also a complete, well-rounded trainer, which Virgil is. Virgil is one of those masterminds of a trainer. And we see the best of Virgil's training based on the level of his talent, right? The things that we saw Andre Ward do based on his talent level paired with Virgil's mind has been crazy. So based on Spence's talent level with a mind of Virgil, we might get a whole new monster in some aspects, in some ways. You know what I'm saying? So I think that would be a beautiful number two. And that's interchangeable for me. It could be either one or two. I think both of them are both like trainers that are well-rounded, all the way well-rounded. They're not just good at just one particular thing or another particular thing, but they're good at the whole gambit, the whole gamut. You know what I'm saying? So those are my two picks, y'all.
That's a great. I wasn't thinking of Sugar Hill, but that's a great pick.
Yeah,
as well. I think
that is a real good pick,
Calvin. But that's a great. I don't know why he didn't cross my mind, but that's a very great pick.
Yeah, I got a feeling though that Sugar Hill is not on this list though. For whatever reason, I got a feeling that they're not even thinking about homie, and he might be one of the best resources you can get.
You think he would mess with somebody else, like some Robert Garcia or something, or
that was thrown around too.
Out the realm type trainer, whatever. Somebody just random who you wouldn't respect, Joe Goosen or something. Just somebody out the range. You just throw you off.
I think I could see Robert Garcia.
Even Breadman. I forgot him.
Fire.
Breadman.
Breadman is fire. I would love to see him in Breadman because Breadman not only he's a coach, but he also doubles as strength and conditioning as well. You know what I'm saying? Like, so he's incredible. I could see him with Robert Garcia. I definitely could see him with Robert Garcia. He's a hell of a coach too, well-rounded coach, not just good at one thing, good at many things. I think that would be beautiful. Also, it may actually complement his style, being that his style is kind of Mexican already, for him to get with a Mexican coach to kind of maximize what it is that that he's done. So I think the skies is really the limit, but time is of the essence. And
exactly.
I think he need to lock something down now. I'm sure he's training on he might be doing his training, got to do Holton Pass or whatever case may be. But, you got to fight with Fedora coming up. This fight is going to be interesting, a bit weird because you've never fought anybody as long, lanky. He's fighting Kareem Abdul-Jabbar at this point. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? Like, so it's time to strategize, plan, watch film, get ready. You know what I'm saying? It's October, November be here super quick. Super quick.
Before you know it, yeah.
Before you know it, man. So, yep. Thank y'all for joining us for another episode of Impose My Will. Thank you very much. Again, follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, X. I Impose My Will podcast for all three. Like, subscribe, dislike, however you feel. Thank you very much. Y'all take care, everybody. Peace.
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 Happy belated Father's Day. All the
Thank
fathers
you.
out there.
Thank you. Thank you. Happy belated Father's Day. Take care, y'all. Welcome back to another episode